Can you record a conversation in Arizona and use it in court? My name is Robert Larson. I'm an attorney and I'm also the owner of the Larson Law Office in Mesa, Arizona, specializing primarily in family law and estate planning. And when it comes to the family law part of it, we go to court a lot for that. There's a lot of hearings involved in family court, and especially a lot of evidentiary hearings. So those are hearings where evidence is presented. And sometimes the evidence people want to use is an audio or video recording that they've made. And so the question comes up, can you use that in court in Arizona? And the answer is yes. And other states may have different rules. I know some states require consent of the other person, where you have to give them notice that you're recording and get their permission, or maybe you don't have to get permission, but you have to at least give them notice. And I'm not really sure what other states' rules are. All I know is in Arizona, if you make the recording, you can use it. And so if somebody doesn't know they're being recorded, it doesn't really matter. It can still be used in court. The person who wants to introduce the recording in court needs to be able to say that they recorded it and that it's an accurate recording of what happened and so on. They need to, it's called lay a foundation. But once they do that, the judge will allow them to use it. And this can actually be a very effective way to present evidence in court. So, for example, let's say you're having conversations with your ex and you're trying to do some co-parenting, but every time you talk to your ex, they're yelling at you and screaming, insulting you, calling you names, and things of that nature. And let's say, especially if it's just really vulgar and mean, it's one thing to testify about it. And you could testify about it and you could tell the judge about it, and the judge is going to say, well, okay, fine. I hear you, but I don't have any proof of that. And the other person is, of course, going to deny it because people lie in family court a lot. You'd be surprised. And so you go up and testify and you talk about the conversations. The other person says it's an exaggeration. Sure, you have some arguments, but it's not really that big of a deal. The judge doesn't know who to believe, and so it basically becomes a wash to the judge. The judge doesn't really have anything that they can do anything with. But if you have a recording, and I've seen this in court, when you have a recording and you play that recording where somebody's screaming at you, insulting you, and calling you names and things of that nature, the judge really takes notice. And I've seen it in the judge's rulings before where it makes a big difference. So if somebody is talking to you like that and you've been able to play a recording of some examples of it to the judge, usually the judge will find that's a significant factor in the decisions that they make when it comes to the legal decision making and parenting time orders. And so it could be an audio recording, it could be video, and especially if you're making allegations that somebody's fighting or domestic violence, then video can really be important. And so anyway, it's a tough decision to decide whether to record someone or not, but the answer to the question is, in Arizona, you can use it. So that's just something to know, that you have the option in Arizona to be able to record other people and record your conversations, and it could be used in court. It's also a warning to anybody dealing with family court or any other kind of litigation in Arizona. Any conversations that you have could be recorded, it could be used against you. So that's a good advice for anyone, really, to just think about that. Any conversation you have, whether it's in writing, whether it's email or text message, or even if it's a phone call or any other kind of verbal conversation, you have to remember you could be recorded, and whatever you're saying could be used against you in court. So if you just always imagine that a judge is listening to you or going to be reading what you say, you'll probably avoid problems. And so that's just a good thing to keep in mind when you're going through court. Or if you're in a situation where you're going back to court frequently with your ex over the years, you just want to remember that anything you say could be preserved forever. So if you found this helpful, feel free to subscribe and like the video, and I'll be happy to give you more like this in the future.